Hey folks, it's CJ Miller. I'm in Shreveport, Louisiana. So this is my new thing that I'm working on. It's basically just a trivet, a tray, that maybe once it's done, I'll be able to throw a couple of pieces of jewelry in or, uh, my keys or something like that. These are really kind of cool. I normally will buy something like this. There's a gift shop that I go to and I'll buy like something like this. And, that get like they make really wonderful uh, gifts, for like anniversaries, couples, anything like that. Anything. It's a little bedside intimate or something like that. And it's I don't know. I think flowers are kind of sexy anyway. But so I made the main tray part, put the petals together, following a pattern that I'd been taught. And then, of course, it was rather, uh, none of the embellishments were there or anything like that. Uh, so I thought to myself, it looks, it, this, it, the tray itself looks bland enough. I need to put some ornamentation into these petals. I need to, some detailing or whatever. So I put some divots around what I think here is the piston part or whatever. You'll be really, really careful with doing anything like that. I see it's firming up a little bit, so uh, that's not gonna. I don't. At one point, I don't want to like break it off by trying to go too deep into it. But and then, of course, I've added the. Went through and I put the little, almost like you would do a leaf, in a tree. Uh, go in and put the detailing into it. And then if your detailing gets a little too heavy, you maybe want to shallow it up a little bit. Dip your finger in your finger pad into some water and just kind of like soften around. Okay, so right now I hear my alarm going. Let me go. Let me go take that bread out of the oven. All right, so one of the things your old pal CJ was doing here in my kitchen was baking this bread, and I put the seasonings on. And what's kind of cool about this is I want you to be able to look at the where I cut. This is a I cut nodules into the dough before I started proofing it and baking it, and even then it started to rise and separate in those nodules. How far apart the bits are between the seasoning, that is how far uh, collectively this dough has spread. Whereas there was a landing strip. There was like nearly a strip of space in between these two bits of bread, and that's how far. That's how wonderful this dough spreads and grows as it's being cooked. So, and it's a great texture. I've had similar breads before. The reason why I've cut so deep into it, even while it was baking, because when the bread was proofed, uh, that means I put it in maybe about 170 was as low as I could get the temperature, and I put it in the oven and I let my oven uh, proof at 170 with this bread in here, and then also a tray of water to help steam and give a firm crust, so that as it was cooking and rising as it proofed, then I turned it up to 350. And the reason why is I want to get this browning on the crust. That's called, and you can see it even in between, uh, but even uh, as it was proofing, and then I cut it, and so it grew some more even out of that. So we got like a couple of different tones, but this browning on the crust is called uh, Maillard, and that's a process in which the crusting and the browning happens on top of the dough. And then there is another process, caramelization. Now that happens, it's a chemical reaction that happens with the starches that convert to sugar. Uh, due to interactions with the yeast and the salts and things like that. You know, the chemical reaction, but involving the sugars, the caramelization that happens inside of the bread, and it breaks down and turns into an alcohol, which gets evaporated out of the bread, and then pockets of air, the carbon dioxide. Uh, and then, so this is really, really, this is going to be a really, really good artisan bread. I'm not having it to eat right now. Uh, I'm going to have some uh, in a few hours. I need to fully, this bread is still warm to the touch, even though there's, uh, like nodules cut and everything like that. And when I go to pull it apart, it's going to pull apart just at these cut seams that I've already scored it. So it's a whole bread, but it's already like ready to pull apart. So you could take one of these, set it at your table, and as your people go to have dinner, they literally can break bread. This is great. It's an artisan style. Uh, or if you wanted to, if you had a good creamy cheese sauce that you wanted to drizzle inside of this bread, or you could do caramel sauce or chocolate sauce or butterscotches. You could turn it into a sweet dessert if you didn't have these Italian herbs on the outside. You know, you could drizzle butter in there and everything like that. But I think that would make it a little soggy. It's probably better to work with butter at the table. Anyway, this is cool. The possibilities are endless. Except for me, I'm just going to take some of the bread and then I'll have it with my meal later on. But yeah, I'll probably do a video then. Love you guys. Oh, I wanted to go talk about that. Um, yeah, I better not. If I go back over there, I'm going to tweak with it. It didn't, someone showed me the pattern. I started working with the clay, decided to detail it, and then uh, before I decide what to do next, it really has to fully dry. If I keep touching it, it's at a good point right now, but it's at a point that easily I could push it over and it become ungood, so um, okay, so I love you guys. Love and light. Have a good night.